Something seriously strange is happening to Ariana Grande. Her story is somehow both extremely exposed to the public and shrouded in mystery.
But I was infatuated with serial killers when I was younger.
Were you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, put a pause on that.
They did the Brighter Days memory erasure treatment to me, so I'm having trouble remembering the details. They're foggy because at the Brighter Days clinic they do the memory erasure, you know? The memory erasure, they erase my memories.
The increasingly bizarre behavior on stage and in interviews, her apparent spiritual beliefs linked to the occult, her alleged murky and troubling upbringing with her dysfunctional family, and the media's ongoing criticism of her as a homewrecker. All of these topics are bubbling under the surface and fueling a wave of concern, speculation, and debate around her public image. But this is not just a story about Ariana Grande, and to jump on the bandwagon to assassinate her character would be to miss a much wider point about what fame does to a human being, and why this keeps happening to the world's biggest stars. What does it actually take to survive getting this much attention? What is the cost of surviving and even getting to this point? When someone begins to unravel, why does the machine that built them keep the cameras rolling rather than intervene? And after years of platitudes and statements from the industry about protecting its own precious people, why is the situation worse now than it ever was before? It's Ariana's current tour that's making her fans even more worried than before. When these photos went viral, they said she looks drained and even thinner than ever. Her music and visual style are also a huge change from what they used to be. It's dark, brutal, and chilling. The music videos and stage design feature apocalyptic scenes of decimated cities with extreme imagery and horror-themed storylines. The intro song is titled End of the World, and in the video for Supernatural, she's taken up in a possessed-like state up into a UFO. Ariana has filmed entire interludes for YouTube and her tour, with a dark storyline that mirrors some of her real-life experiences. She references her memory loss issues through the Brighter Days clinic, where she goes to erase horrific moments that she wants to forget. This echoes what she's tried to do in her personal life. She told the New York Times that for the Wicked role, it was really important to erase as much of myself as possible. Think of her description of erasing oneself, and you can immediately see how much wider this problem is. How many of Hollywood's idols and A-listers have remained consistently the same throughout their entire career. The list is dwindling every year. Ozempic, plastic surgery, peptides, all sold in the name of wellness and longevity. On the surface, it looks like progress, but results in pretty much what Ariana says, the progressive erasure of oneself. When you start to look back at her life, there are elements of her story that can actually help us trace the origins of where this all comes from. Take the relentless innuendos and creepy suggestive scenes filmed by Dan Schneider on the Nickelodeon show Victorious and Sam and Cat. In 2024, the documentary Quiet on Set, The Dark Side of Kids TV showed how former child actors and writers described being put in compromising positions on set, all in revealing costumes and scenarios. Although this led people to speculate about what happened during this time, Ariana has rarely spoken about it and never contributed to the documentary that exposed Schneider. Schneider later apologized for some of his on-set behavior while denying he was ever involved in any abuse. But that is far from the only creepy story from Ariana's earlier years. Her parents eventually divorced when Ariana was 8 years old, and her father became estranged for years. Ariana allegedly struggled to process this and started going to therapy that same year. She would stay in therapy for decades due to the death of her soulmate Mac Miller and the Manchester bombing attack at her concert in the UK. She has said herself how her family was also obsessed with horror, villains, and Halloween. To celebrate, they painted their walls with real animal blood. People thought that was a joke, but Ariana's mother talked about it too, saying, "I did the house up in things that would give normal children nightmares. I would go to the butcher, get heart organs or lungs, and then be like, Ariana Frankie, this is a heart." The kids would then paint blood on the walls, and I remember Ariana's little handprints. One Halloween, they dressed up as Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz with her mother as the Wicked Witch of the West. Ariana told Billboard about her childhood and that she was a very weird little kid and was dark and deranged. She said she always wanted to have skeleton face paint on or wear a Freddy Krueger mask and would carry a hockey stick around with her. To quote, "When I was little it was more concerning. There was a stage when I was 3 or 4 where my mum thought I might grow up to be a serial killer." This video is sponsored by Cloak, who challenged me to do something eye-opening before filming. They asked me to go to cloak.com/moon, enter my phone number, and see how much of my personal information was already floating around online. I wasn't expecting much, but within seconds, it pulled up information tied to me, including the fact that my social security number had been exposed. The really disturbing thing is realizing there are entire companies you've never heard of whose whole business is collecting your personal information and selling it. Every time you sign up for a website or accept another terms of service nobody reads, you're feeding that system. Most privacy services only clean up the mess after your information is already out there, but Cloak takes a very different approach. It finds where your data is being sold and helps remove it, but it also stops you creating new vulnerabilities in the first place. So whenever you sign up for something new, you can generate burner email addresses, phone numbers, and usernames right inside the app, and actually send texts, make calls, and receive emails through them. So data brokers aren't collecting your real information anymore. They're just collecting information that can't be tied back to you. They also include dark web monitoring, AI spam call filtering, a built-in VPN, a password manager, and up to $1 million in identity theft insurance. So make sure to go to cloak.com/moon to enter your phone number and run the free scan, as within a few seconds you'll be able to see if your social security number's been exposed. Make sure to use the link in the description below for 30% off any plan. Her dark interests stretched further into her teenage years, by which point she had become obsessed with famous murderers.
But I was infatuated with serial killers when I was younger.
Were you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, put a pause on that.
I was in a Q&A with fans, with young fans. It was young fans at the time. It was like, I think it was like in between like me being Kat and pop stuff. So it was like a younger group. But it was with a parent. Someone said, if you could have dinner with anyone living or dead, who would it be? And I was like, oh, you're so cute. Who, Mom and Dad, is it okay if I give the real answer? And they were like, sure, I guess. What's the answer? And I was like, I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer's pretty fascinating. I think I would have loved to have met him.
Ariana's obsession with horror, witches, and the supernatural has come to influence her identity again when she fulfilled her dream to take the role of Glinda in Wicked. She didn't just change the way she looked, but even her accent and tone of voice. Just compare her now to those clips of her in Nickelodeon, and you realize how different she really is. And this has come with accusations of blackfishing or Asian fishing because Ariana is of white American and Italian descent.
Kiyomi, get your ass in here. Come on, girl.
I'm like, that's my cookie, that's my juice, okay? Carry on.
Method acting is one thing, but since this role, her voice is permanently changed to this high-pitched Glinda voice. People online have created entire compilations of how her voice has changed, and it's become even more obvious when you see her slip into her normal voice in some of the interviews.
I mean, that's the only thing I thought. That's how I felt. I was like, what has happened? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I've been writing a lot and maybe there's some more, but I would like to do a deluxe at some point.
Each incremental change went by mostly unnoticed by her millions of fans, but once you compare them over time, they're impossible to ignore. She's even described herself as a literal witch.
I sit somewhere between being a literal witch, I'm not kidding, and being like the most realistic, cut, dry.
When the recent clips of Ariana's voice changes went viral on TikTok, she was even in the comments making a case for why she sounds like that, and she's constantly photo dumping on Instagram with multiple posts a day.
I used to always close my eyes in pictures. Now I sometimes close my eyes in pictures, but I used to always do it, I think because I was so anxious about being perceived or seen or judged. I wished at that time that I could have just been a floating voice and nothing and never visible ever.
To her credit, Ariana is ultimately free to speak in whatever voice she wants. Eccentricity isn't a flaw in this industry, it's the product. It's exactly what makes celebrities profitable, fascinating, and impossible to look away from. But there's a really dark pattern hiding inside of this. The very thing that makes a child star marketable, their unique voice, their quirks, their specialness, is just so often the same thing later used to tear them apart. The industry builds them up around a personality, then turns around and treats any sign of struggle as evidence that the personality was the problem all along. and each time it happens, it gets treated as an isolated scandal. Looking back to her time on Nickelodeon, Ariana is so often harassed by the media because she is more candid about this than others in her position. You could even argue that her tendency to be candid about the industry has put a target on her back. In 2014, Ariana posted on Facebook about the end of her show Sam & Cat, thanking the disgraced creator of the show. Ariana is specifically describing how she and her character's identity blended into one, which is an all too common problem for the world's biggest celebrities. It's a real psychological phenomenon known as identity fragmentation, where the mind becomes split into two different alter egos. It's well known that becoming a celebrity can accelerate this process in the most susceptible individuals, which is why we see it so often among child stars. Think of Shia LaBeouf, Jeanette McCurdy, Ariana's own co-star on Sam & Cat, who wrote a whole memoir about the trauma of being a child performer pushed by a controlling mother. Or Macaulay Culkin, Drew Barrymore, Demi Lovato, Lindsay Lohan, the list just goes on. All of them handed to the public as children, and all of them at some point fell apart in full view of the world. The German philosopher Rousseau is considered one of the first celebrity intellectuals, and he discussed his fame at length in essays. He wrote, "Among my contemporaries there are a few men whose names are more known in Europe and whose person is more unknown. There was a Rousseau in high society and another in retirement who bore no resemblance to him." During this time, he described how the public and private versions of himself were basically entirely different people. He found his fame warped society's view of him and tortured who he truly was as a person. When this idea is applied to the modern-day pop star, the results can be disastrous. Britney Spears' public image, for example, was carefully designed by the mainstream pop industry to meet the marketing conditions of the time. When she's no longer met those standards and the facade fell apart, she was ridiculed by society and shunned by the media. I just wanted to pause the video and say how many of you have told us that you've just been randomly unsubscribed from the channel, and how some of you are regular viewers but just aren't subscribed. So if there was one easy and free thing you could do to help us, my team, and to allow us to make these videos, it's just simply to hit that subscribe button. With your support, I'll make sure every single week, every single year, we work to uncover information nobody else wants to talk about, and show you the ugly parts of the world that need exposing now more than ever. Let's continue with the video. The process of splitting identity often happens as a matter of survival, particularly in the modern day environment, because no one's true self can survive this level of attention and criticism. They have no choice but to split their identity to protect themselves, but this inevitably comes with disassociation from their true self. Think of The Rock or even Oprah. You cannot separate the person and the brand. And once the brand and person begin to fuse or blur into one, the actual self that unifies both, quite literally our flesh and blood, also begins to warp and change. Hollywood stars depend on the longevity of their image, which is why so many go to enormous lengths to prevent aging. That's why actors like Tom Cruise and John Travolta seemingly refuse to age. John Travolta is over 70 years old, yet this is what he looks like today. There are 20-year-olds living regular working class lives that look older than him. Ariana has repeatedly denied modifying her face, going so far as to take a lie detector test for Vanity Fair. It's supposed to be funny, but it's just weird. From an outsider's perspective looking in, we just see plainly how celebrities are constantly fighting against the pressures of the industry, and this is them papering over the cracks that form under the pressure. When it comes to Ariana's public identity, it was always linked to her music and acting work, and the Glinda persona she has today. The idea of identity fragmentation is also linked to memory loss disorders and is documented to be exacerbated by traumatic experiences that are too painful to remember. This begs the question, is that what Ariana Grande is doing? Onlookers around her are asking, is she immersing herself in fake identities to protect herself? She says there are whole years that are missing from her memory, all because of what she says is due to burnout and mental exhaustion.
Ariana, we did a weird talk show in the UK like 10 years ago. Do you remember that at the same day?
Wait, no.
Yeah.
What? Wait, what weird talk show did we do?
It was
Chatty
called,
Man?
Yes.
Yeah, with
Chatty Man.
the drink cart.
And like I think I rode
Oh
a
my God,
bicycle.
that's right. It's back.
Boy,
Wait,
I really
do
leave an
remember.
impression.
It's not you. It was the boundaries. Remember?
Maybe. Was there
It was
bad?
just me. It was. I'm missing a couple of years. I'm super serious from that
Copy
time.
that.
I'm literally missing a few years.
It's not fair to judge someone on alleged mental decline, but equally, you can't really ignore the signs that this isn't right. In a broader sense, these issues have less to do with Ariana and have everything to do with her environment. A toxic industry that pushes artists to the edge for money, influence, and entertainment of the public. It's like a modern day Colosseum where its publicity and financial success is fueled by the mayhem, suffering, and eventual destruction of its performers. This then creates a horrible feedback loop that keeps celebrities trapped in fame, like a boom and bust cycle of identity. If the personality starts to break down, these viral moments feed into their fame and public exposure, benefiting the very same industry that trapped them in the first place. The result is these figures are forced into the fakeness of the modern entertainment industry. The constant interviews and press tours, the obsession of image and beauty that is baked into the career of a pop icon, and the expected levels of social media engagement. These are all things that would make anyone lose touch with their sense of reality. Today, Ariana is very open about the monsters inside of her head, but her demons follow her wherever she goes. In a 2013 interview with Complex, she described her multiple encounters with what she calls demons when she visited Stoll Cemetery in Kansas, which has been labeled one of the 7 gates to hell. She said she used to constantly take photographs of demons on her phone and describes crazy visual disturbances and dark entities when she tries to sleep. She asked for help on the phone, but ended the interview story with, "I'm just gonna chill and not feed into it because all it wants is fear. It feeds on fear." It was during this same year that Ariana discovered spirituality and joined the Kabbalah Center, which is a school of Jewish mysticism said to predate modern religion. The Kabbalah Center teaches one form of it, and became infamous for its famous members including Madonna, Britney Spears, Paris Hilton, and Lindsay Lohan. Its teachings contain many typical New Age ideas, such as astrology and meditative prayer. It also teaches an idea called the Clipper, which is a reframing of your inner demons as a negative force that conceals hidden divine truth. These are all beliefs that Ariana has held to this day. In this backstage clip, she describes her problems with it. These are not necessarily harmful teachings, but these sorts of mainstream spiritual organizations can be a very terrible place to look for help. This center in particular has had numerous controversies over the years of financial exploitation, cult-like worker abuse, and assault. Her current day understanding of her issues bears a lot of resemblance to the Kabbalah teachings she was exposed to before.
And I think I've reached a place with my monsters where I appreciate them because I know that they're trying to protect me from disappointment, from more hurt, from more whatever, but they're not productive for me as an artist. So I lovingly ask them, I have a name for them, and I lovingly ask them if they can just get me a coffee and come back in 15. And they do. I think that's like a big part of trauma work, actually, is like befriending those monsters.
So in that sense, Ariana says she has a kind of symbiotic, or you could say parasitic relationship with her alter egos. But really, this is just another echo of something that's been happening in Hollywood forever. It's a land of paradoxes. The creation of enormous wealth clashes with the destruction of the very human products that generate it. The endless beauty and longevity treatments result in rotting Ozempic bodies, alien faces, and just what feels like clones of what we once saw in our favorite movies and TV shows. The industry talks about respect, about protecting its own, and yet races to make martyrs out of vulnerable targets. The Curse of the Wizard of Oz is an idea that hangs over this whole story. It's a film that Ariana is obsessed with. The many mysterious deaths connected to the original 1939 film are still widely speculated about today, but perhaps the most tragic piece of symbolism is the abuse of Judy Garland, who played the lead role of Dorothy. During filming, she was forced onto starvation diets to keep her with a childlike figure. While being fueled with amphetamines by her mother and the producers, she was constantly insulted as being ugly and overweight, as a targeted way of controlling her. This then led to lifelong eating disorders, depression, and addiction. Judy called her own mother the real Wicked Witch of the West. Ariana's whole story shows how almost a century of Hollywood, with everything it's claimed to have learned, has made zero difference to the well-being of those who fuel it. The younger you are, the more vulnerable you are. Rousseau's now famous quote from his book The Social Contract seems more relevant than ever. Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. The dark social contract of becoming a celebrity is that the whole world must know your name but never know the truth. The chains of stardom is more like a curse than a blessing, and the tragedy is that the stars of today rarely realize that before it's too late.